Jaya Madhava Jami Hari Madhava Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Who's this Caitanya? That's on the bottom. What was it? What was it again, the press? 204. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we're reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, and text 204. Chaya Chopanishadibi Chaya Chopanishadbhischa Chaya Chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogash Cha Satvatahai Sankhya Yogash Cha Satvitahai Upagiyamanam Mahatmyam Upagiyamanam Mahatmyam Harim Samanya I can't see it. Samanyatat Harim Samanyatatmajam Harim Samanyatatmajam Chaya Chopanishadischa Sankhya Yogascha Satvatahai Upagiyamanam Mahatmyam Harim Samyatat Majam Harim Sammanyatat Majam Chaya Chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogascha Satvatahai Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Upagiyamanam Mahatmyam Harim Samyatatmajam Chaya Chopanishadischa Sankhya Yogash Satvatahai Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samyatatmajam Harim Samanyatatmajam Trayachopanishadvischa Sankhya Yogascha Satvatahai Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samyatatmajam Harim Samanyatatmajam Anichadvischa Yoga Ishtisatvatahai Manan Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam Trayachopanishadvischa Sankhya Yogascha Satvatahai Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samyatatmajam Traya by followers of the three Vedas who perform great sacrifices such as those performed for the demigods Indra. Also Upanishadibi by the followers of the Upanishads, the most exalted portion of Vedic knowledge, as Brahman. Cha, also Sankhya by the philosophers who analytically study the universe, as the Purusha. Yoga by mystic yogis, as the Paramatma situated everywhere. Cha, and Sadvatahai by devotees who follow the method of worship mentioned in the Pancharatra and other Vedic literatures, as Bhagavan. Upagiyamana, being sung. Mahatmyam, whose glories. Harim, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sa, she, Mother Yashoda. Amanyata, considered. Atmajam, as her own son, born of her body. Translation. When Mother Yashoda saw all the universe within Krishna's mouth, she was astonished for the time being. The Lord is worshipped like Indra and other demigods by the followers of the three Vedas, who offer him sacrifices. He is worshipped as impersonal Brahman by the saintly persons who understand his greatness through studying the Upanishads, as the Purusha by great philosophers who analytically study the universe as the all-pervading supersoul. By the universe, as the all-pervading supersoul by great yogis, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees. Nevertheless, Mother Yashoda considered the Lord to be her own son. In response, please. When Mother Yashoda saw all the universes within Krishna's mouth, she was astonished for the time being. The Lord is worshipped like Indra and other demigods by the followers of the three Vedas, who offer him sacrifices. He is worshipped as impersonal Brahman by saintly persons who understand his greatness through studying the Upanishads as the Purusha, by great philosophers who analytically study the universe as the all-pervading Supersoul, by great yogis and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the devotees. Nevertheless, Mother Yashoda considered the Lord to be her own son. You go in. Purport. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.45. Those who are spiritually advanced forget Krishna opulence by the mercy of Yogamaya. For instance, Mother Yashoda considered Krishna an ordinary child. We've got a 10th canto here. Is there one? Okay. You must do 10 first canto, first part. Omigam Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastatyare Shatarine. So this is the pastime where Krishna was eating dirt, and all the coward boys and Balaram, they complained to Mother Yashoda to stop him from doing that. And Mother Yashoda was, she was beside herself with anxiety. You start eating dirt and you get, so many diseases. And so she started scolding Krishna. They say you've been eating dirt. He says, they're envious. And so he said, no, he's definitely been eating dirt, Balaram said. And so then she said, open your mouth. And so he opened his mouth, and there was remnants of dirt in his mouth. And so she chastised him. But there was the whole universe in his mouth. So, she became completely bewildered. And she started to think, who is this? And she was just about to start offering prayers. And then Krishna covered by the Yogamaya potency again. And then she just sort of treated as a secondary thing. Just something I've seen. And she started to deal with him on the platform of, on the platform of Vatsalya, as mother to son. Thank you. And so, so when Shukadev Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, in the 10th canto, it mentions how at one point he was speaking, then he leant forward, and he started speaking just to Maharaj Pariksit. You know, it's like you're there, and instead of speaking to everybody else, he started to, you know, and if you've got so much to say that you don't want anybody else to hear, he did that. And so Maharaj Pariksit says, isn't it amazing how, you know, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you know, for the devotees, the super soul for the yogis, and the, you know, Brahman effulgence for all the impersonalist philosophers. And the, you know, so he said, but yet, here is Mother Yashoda actually treating him just like her own child. And so he said that because not all those in the audience, they were actually a mixture of different classes of transcendentalists. Some were, you know, devotees who would be able to understand at least to some degree, not all, depends on our level of devotion. And then there was the yogis, and they're a wide variety. Some are God realized, some are just interested in opulence. And then lastly, there was the Gyanis, who are interested in different things also. It's a wide variety. So he was dealing with a lot of transcendentalists who wouldn't be able to understand this point and think, what is he talking about? You know. So he did that for that purpose. So this is the position that, you know, Krishna's in the heart of all living entities. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto. And he gives mata, smriti, and upahanam. He gives remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And this is the sum and substance of all relationships with Krishna. He reveals himself according to our attitude towards him. If our attitude is to enjoy this world, what does he reveal himself as? Mrityu sarva haras chaham. I am all devouring death. People ignore God throughout their life, and then at the end of life, they definitely realize, I'm not in control. Maybe it's a person. And if they're fortunate at that time, by Krishna's blessing, they can get some benefit by praying to God. But that's unlikely, because if they lead a life of material sense gratification, they're not going to be able to remember God at the time of death. So he reveals himself in different ways. So we just heard Brahman effulgence, super soul, like that. So a devotee is very conscious about, you know, seeing first of all where he's at. We have to be introspective. And when we're introspective, we can start to see, you know, we apply the philosophy to ourselves, then we're able to see, with the help of devotee association, what is our position in devotional service, especially the spiritual master. We all need superior guidance to, you know, to get information from. Then we can actually, at some point, we can start to deal with other devotees or other people and see where they're at to some degree, and then deal with them in an appropriate way. So everything is dependent on not killing everybody's opportunity for devotional service. So this is called Madhya Madhikari. He comes to the point where he can differentiate and deal with people in such a way that they actually advance, or at least they don't become inimical towards the process of devotional service. So that's the main thing that, you know, of a sadhu. A sadhu doesn't want to disturb the ongoing process of anybody's sojourn in this material world. Like Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita, even a gross materialist can actually apply this by not interrupting the life of any living entity in this world. Otherwise we spoil their advancement. And so that's especially the responsibility of a devotee, is to become, you know, whatever the situation, to ensure that people are able to go forward. Just a few things here. So then, of course, Shukadev Goswami began speaking again, talking about that pastime of the dirt. But he couldn't hold himself back. You know, sometimes when you get something really which twigs the heart or your intelligence, you've got to share it, haven't you? And so Shukadev Goswami was like, yeah. And he saw another devotee, yeah. Everybody else, what's going on? Get on with it. You know? So yeah, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto, it says in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna is the source of all these things. And there are three, when we come to the stage of knowledge, he's the source of knowledge. He starts to reveal knowledge first. And then from knowledge we get a little bit of remembrance. With it, and he's also making everybody under the influence of the material energy, forgetfulness. But when we get knowledge, we start to become a little bit conversant with the process. And then remembrance. This is explained in the nectar of instruction. The process of devotional service is Shravanam. In the beginning, what is it? Shravanadasa. Shravanadasa. And by Shravanadasa, we come to the point of Varanadasa. Varanadasa means acceptance. You know, it may not be complete acceptance in the beginning, but gradually we start to accept the knowledge and it starts to work on our consciousness. And then eventually we can come to the point of accepting Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there's different stages of Smaranavasta. Smaranavasta means remembrance. And so this will be, in the beginning, it will be just intermittent. And then after some time, it may become a little bit more pervasive. And then after some time, it becomes more pervasive than the forgetfulness. And then it becomes complete. And then it becomes meditation, like that. And then samadhi. And then eventually, sampatidas. And when we're full samadhi, Krishna will reveal himself to the devotee. And the devotee will understand his position in relationship to Krishna. So yeah, the beginning is called Sambandha. This is what we're all trying to do. We're trying to understand Krishna. We understand him to some degree. And that process of Sambandha will actually increase. Krishna is unlimited. How can you understand the unlimited with limited knowledge? It's impossible. So that Sambandha, but enough Sambandha to become convinced. There has to be some conviction. And that may not be there in the beginning either, but by hearing and association, we become convinced. And then we can actually start to abhideya. We can start to practice the process. And by practicing the process, then gradually the heart becomes purified. Slowly but surely. And it's all dependent on attitude as well. In nectar of instruction, it's not just a matter of following, it's a matter of actually developing a proper attitude. Krishna is not reciprocating with our service. He's reciprocating with the motive behind the service. And ultimately, the real motive is, how is this devotee trying to attain me? How is he actually trying to understand me? How is he trying to, make progress towards the goal of life? And this was emphasized by Lord Caitanya when he spoke to Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was asked by Lord Caitanya, tell me something important about the goal of life, and quote from Shastra to back it up. So then Ramananda Roy started to quote different things from Bhagavad Gita, a Varnashram system, Ta Sri Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Graham Hindriya. 7 mukhi. Ijivra Swayameva Spurachada. No, that's the wrong one. Atabumbiya Dvija Sistas Varna Shrama Vibhagasa Svanasita Dharmasha Samsidir Hari Toshinam. Krishna's pleased by us following the Varna Shram. And Lord Caitanya said, no, this is external. These can be activities of material without any other consciousness. He says, all that we should do, Yat Karoshi, Yat Adnasi, Yat Jadasi, Jadasi, Yat Tapashasi, Kunchiyat, Mad Kurushva, Madapanam. He said, no, this is the same. We may do it unconsciously. Okay, Bhagavad Gita finished. Abandon all rights, no. We may abandon without knowledge. Okay, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatme. Come to the platform of knowledge and become free from material identification. And Lord Caitanya said, no. That can be speculation. And then Ramananda Roy said, Jnane Priyasam. Don't speculate. Udapasyanam Antyeva. Jivanti Sanma Caritamrta Varnam. Stane Sitasha. Don't change your position. Sannyasi, Panaprasa, Grihastha, Brahmachari, Shudra, just stay in your own position and just hear with great attention. He said, if we do that, we hear from the right source, then it conquers Krishna. Nobody can conquer Krishna in the 3 worlds. All these other processes, they won't conquer Krishna because they're not aimed at Krishna. They're aimed at what the individual wants. So the key is, how do we satisfy Krishna with everything we do? And then Krishna can reciprocate with that. That pleases Krishna. First of all, you have to hear about me, understand who I am, understand what I'm trying to do. And then he says, Krishna's interested. He's not interested in the yogis so much. When they get the association of a devotee, then he becomes interested in the yogis. When the gyan is here from a devotee, he becomes interested. He's interested, but indirectly. I mean, if somebody's not really interested in you, it's difficult to be interested in them, isn't it? Krishna's a person. So, we have to really become interested in Krishna. And that's not easy. I remember when I first started reading Prabhupada's books, it was The Science of Self-Realization. And the first time I read it, it started talking about God, and I put it down and thought, I'm not going through that. I've just been, through the Christian upbringing. And every time I asked a question, I never got a reasonable answer. The best answer I got was, you have to have faith. And I thought, I'm not going to listen to all that again. And then 7 years later, I picked it up again. I thought, go on, I can't find anything else better to do in this world. I'll read this. And it starts talking about, karma, wow. Reincarnation, wow. We're not the body. Then it started talking about Krishna. I went, flick, 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 flick. I'm looking for something else. I wasn't interested. And sometimes that's the case when we're reading Bhagavatam. Even now, we get long parts of the Bhagavatam which are explaining Krishna's opulences. And, if we're honest, are we really... that's not so attractive, maybe. It may be for some. But I find it, a little bit of an effort to hear it. But at some point, if we keep doing that, we'll think, wow, we'll want to hear more about Krishna. And if any famous people who, they're following a particular way of life that attracts us, right? Anybody got a particular thing that they like? Or they did like? It's good, actually, if you forgot. That's good. If we're forgetting all these things. Sometimes when I hear, I never don't get into it. So, yeah, Krishna's interested. So then there's Abhidheya, then finally Prayojan. we understand the goal of life and we reach the goal of life. And what is prayojan? Prema pumartha mahan. Prema, pure love of God, pumartha. The ultimate, artha means acquisition, things that we want. Pumartha, the supreme acquisition. Prema pumartha mahan. So then we start talking about the process of devotional service, which is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And, we put Sri Krishna in the center. We hear many times, what's that? Shaka, that we water the root when we put Krishna in the center. Then actually all our desires become fulfilled. Has anybody got any desires left? Material desires? Nobody. I'm alone. Hey? Yeah, we have. So if we actually water the root, we'll get them fulfilled. Did you know that? Everything will be fulfilled. Dhruva Maharaj, when he saw Lord Vishnu, he got a strong desire to become the greatest ruler in the whole universe. That's more than his grandfather. I mean, that's pretty offensive, isn't it? But Vishnu, he saw there is determination to actually understand the absolute. Narada Muni actually recognized him. That's the point. Devotee recognized his potential. Even though he was actually wrongly situated he could see that this person's got a potential. And he found that spot. He gave him a mantra, and he was so determined, within 6 months he achieved perfection in chanting that mantra. And then Lord Vishnu appeared. So then Lord Vishnu, he encouraged him. And, at the end of life, he was told that he would reign he would get the post of, he would go to Dhruvaloka, and he would be able to reign over the universe. He would be the supreme planet in the universe, which is not destroyed at the time of dissolution. So it was intelligently fulfilled by the Lord. And he was thinking, I don't want that. This is broken glass compared to a diamond. But he had to have it because there was something still there. And so this is what happens in devotional service, is that sometimes we put in positions where we theoretically know we don't want this, but practically there's some attachment there which we don't even know about sometimes. And so therefore, Krishna arranges for that to be removed. And this is what he did with Dhruva Maharaj. We get things that we're actually aspiring for, but in a way that we're detached. It doesn't cause us any problems. We're glad to get rid of it at the end. And this is a healthy sign. So we just do things in a mode of goodness, a service. Okay, I've been given this, let me do it in a detached way. And then we don't become disturbed, and our devotional service carries on. So that's the goal of devotional service, is to learn how to serve Krishna with whatever we have, but not be attached to it. It's only attachments that cause problems, isn't it? If we're not attached to anything, there's no problem. Yeah, so then, we're talking about prema. He says that, this is in everybody's heart. It's not something that, what's that verse? Nityasiddha Krishna prema sajjika banai. Saranadi suritati karya udai. Pure love for God's in the heart. We don't have to obtain it. And it's awakened by the process of devotional service. Hearing and chanting. As soon as we start hearing and chanting, immediately it starts to actually open. So he says that love is actually exhibited through things in this material world. He said it's like in Nectar of Devotion, what does he say? It's like a ray of light. Has anybody seen a ray of light? You know, it's everywhere, simultaneously. He says, so that's our propensity to love. He says, so that propensity cannot be experienced properly until we learn to, we put the one switch, that analogy of the one switch, which will turn all other switches on. And that's the switch of learning how to serve Krishna with devotion. And then, we experience, it's called, what's it called? Sundarananda Visheshatma. He's explained in Nectar of Devotion. He says, if we get spiritual bliss, actually there's a stage before that where we become completely satisfied. And then from that complete satisfaction, as the service starts to manifest more and more, it becomes bliss, and then it just becomes more condensed. So that's what we're working for. That's the hard work we're doing now. The hard work is to, first of all, work on our heart. And so and then as we work on the heart, this happiness, this ability to start loving other living entities becomes manifest. Yes, all relationships, even with the Supreme Lord, they're built on this give and take. This is also in Nectar of Instruction. And Prabhupada explains about this in a way that we give and take. People give donation and we give Krishna consciousness. And all relationships are based on that. And between devotees, same thing. Give and take, we're all different. We all have different propensities. We all have different abilities. So we have to recognize everybody's potential and engage it in an appropriate way. Just like Prabhupada, he would blast. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was so strong that, actually all the devotees complained about him. But Prabhupada, he dealt with him in such a way that he said, preach in China. And so, he wouldn't have done that to a new devotee, or the devotee who was not very strong. To a devotee who was not very strong, he would say, whatever he was doing, that's okay. So that's there. Reciprocation means seeing the potential and then reciprocating with it. So Lord Caitanya, we've got 10 minutes left. Lord Caitanya said, Gopi Bhartu Kamalaya Das Dasanu. That's the position of a devotee. Das Dasanu. We're servants of the servants of the servants. Servants of the gopis. Servants of Krishna, who is the lover of the gopis. So devotional service is completely, so bhakti is completely different from the kind of what we call love or devotion in the material world, in that it's ever expanding. That, we try to enjoy something in the material world and eventually it becomes unenjoyable. We try to actually, even if we try to give enjoyment to others without devotional service, that'll become stale. But if we have the process of devotional service and share that with others, then our devotional service increases. So this is the process of devotional service. We see everybody as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and try to reciprocate with him in a suitable way. I mentioned it, did I mention it? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmeva anupashyata sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tatova vijagupsite. There's one who sees all living entities in relation to the Supreme Lord. He sees them as his partners and parcels, one in quality, or he sees the Lord within everybody also. He doesn't hate anybody or any being. And the next verse says, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva bhut vijnanataha tatrako moha kashoka ekatvam anupashyataha. So here it's going a stage further. One who sees everybody one in quality, as spiritual sparks, one in quality with the Supreme Lord. He's the true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So we'll stop there. We've got 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Maharaj, there is an online question. The question is how to choose a Diksha Guru.
How to do the Diksha Guru?
How to choose a Diksha Guru.
Choose, by hearing. We have to, first of all, we have to have faith of the process. Then we come to the point of associating with devotees. And that association is beneficial in many ways, chief of which is to hear. By hearing, even if the devotee is not personally present, we can understand the devotee's mood. And we'll become particularly attracted to the way certain devotees present this process of Krishna consciousness, because it'll start to actually inspire us to do the needful to go forward. So that's the one thing. And then by association, we see the actual practice of devotional service personally being put into practice by that devotee. So, although Vani is the most important, without hearing, we can't understand anything. But Vapu, or association personally, inspires us also. And then it becomes easy. When you see somebody do something, then, it becomes easy to follow. I remember when I was an apprentice, we went to college and we heard all the theory, but until I actually got on the workshop floor and worked with, electricians, then I understood how to do it. You say, throw that away. You don't need that. Sometimes, the theory, it don't work like that. And even though, right, you couldn't just apply the book because, there's so many nuances and, things that the book can't explain. So a devotee whose personal presence can actually practically guide us in the process. It's not that our theory is like that, but we have to know how to apply it. That's what I'm saying. But sometimes, the tradesmen would say, forget that. We're not using that here. And so then by association, we become more convinced. And then when we start following the process, we may be already following the process completely. But we'll find by putting it into practice, we become more enlivened. And then the other thing is we look at if the particular spiritual master has disciples, then we can see from the activities of his disciples how they're advancing. So when we go shopping, we automatically put all these things into practice. We'll ask somebody, I'm going for this, that, and the other. So I got one of them. How was it? They say, well, I wouldn't get it from this place. There's they're a bit cheaper down the road and they're better quality. And so so that's how it works. We shouldn't think of the spiritual master like that, though. This is the point. But the principle is that we have to be open to, doing all we can to try and understand how we can go forward. That's the thing. But because if we develop the proper attitude in devotional service, we don't have to go anywhere. When Prabhupada was in New York, he landed in New York, and that boat he landed on, when it went the other way, Hayagriva, Caitanya, and Umapati, they all got on the boat to go to India searching for a spiritual master. And then after some time, they realized that they got on the boat that Prabhupada got off. And they told Prabhupada, and Prabhupada started laughing. You see, you don't have to look for a spiritual master. When you're ready, Krishna will send him to you. We may not be ready for what we need. So we have to qualify ourselves. And that will mean that in the association of devotees and by following Shastra, we can start to qualify ourselves to come to the point of taking the vow of initiation. Is that clear? Is that okay?
Maharaj, in that conversation between Lord Caitanya and Ramananda Roy, you mentioned the verse Yat Karoshi, Yat Ashnashi, Yat Chahoshi, Tadasiyat. So, I mean, that verse is in, the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the most confidential knowledge. And in that verse, Krishna is saying, whatever you do, whatever activity you're performing, do it as an offering to me. Yeah. So, I can understand that Lord Caitanya was wanting Ramananda Roy to go to a higher level and talk about, but for myself, for me, that verse in itself is an extremely high level, and if I can just think of Krishna when I'm performing my daily activities, then, and so, you were talking about how different instructions are relevant for different devotees. So when we're reading Shastra and we, like, for example, in that conversation between Lord Caitanya and Ramananda Roy, if we see something that feels like, well, for me, that's my verse. For me, that's the verse that inspires me. And, and when you said it's not all about service, but for me to hear that it's not all about service is like, well, that's what it's all been about for like 20, 30 years. That's what's inspired me to somehow think of Krishna when I'm performing service. So, so how can I cope with that? That it's...
Well, when we read Bhagavad Gita, we're reading it as devotees. Not everybody who reads Bhagavad Gita reading it as devotees. So they'll follow that, and they may actually become surrendered to, being detached, do everything for the absolute. That's one level. You know what I mean? Because Prabhupada always writes in the purport or the translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But so he makes sure that everybody knows that. But they still may not know, they still may not be convinced about that. I was talking to you yesterday, weren't I? About the exact same thing. There's a devotee in Leeds. He's a Christian, he's very devout, and he knows the process of bhakti, but he's previously been practicing some other type of yoga. So he goes back to it. So it's not, so, we're actually understanding things very clearly by Prabhupada's mercy. So there's that. People will follow that verse without, full understanding. And even when a devotee follows it, his understanding may not be the same as another devotee. one devotee may be, you know, thinking that, you know, in an unconscious way, he does what he does, and he's actually detached, or he's not so detached. He may be on Shakam Karma Yoga, where he's attached, and he has to be given a certain size for service. But he does it all for Krishna ultimately. And Nishkam Karma Yoga. Or he may come to the point of Nishkam where he does it all for Krishna, but he may not know the goal. It might be it might be Nishkam Karma Yoga for an impersonalistic goal. And if it's for a personal goal, it means that he's doing it, but he's not necessarily, to some degree, completely trying to satisfy Krishna. You understand?
I understand that analysis of the Yoga Radha. You know, I know that the Gurujan says that the next verse, Pacham Pushpam Bulam Toyam, that's pure devotional service, and the previous verse is Nishkama Karma Yoga. But the same for myself.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning. Devotional service starts with the tongue, offering our food. Well, then, you know, even if Sarvadhat and all varieties of religion just surrendering to me, you'd think, well, how can you get any more than that? But it's a process of surrendering, and we may not be on the topmost process. We may surrender to Krishna, but what does he tell us to do? First of all, you have to understand me. You know, everybody understands Krishna to some degree. Some think he's just a girl. Why are you worshipping a girl? You know, some people think he's, you know, he comes from Mahavishnu. Somebody think he's a lecher. You know, if you talk to the Christians and they hear about the process, they'll think, so they don't know, they have to understand Krishna. And then our devotional service becomes real by Satam Prasanga Mama Virya Samvido. In the association of devotees, topics about the Supreme Lord are very satisfying to the heart and pleasing to the ear. And by hearing, then one gradually becomes freed from his anarthas and he advances on the path of devotional service. Then it says, then real devotional service begins. What is that real devotional service? It means, you know, with full knowledge first, with full knowledge, and then surrender to it with full knowledge. It's better when the end is knowledge, Bhagavad Gita says. And then that means that, you know, it's done with devotion. We know we know everything about Krishna, or we know enough about Krishna, and so we still decide to serve him. Yeah. So we have to be introspective. We're always looking at the heart, looking at the motivation, and seeing how this is actually pleasing Krishna, because that's what counts. Anything else? Okay. Gantara Shri Caitanya Charitamrta ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi. Yeah.